was also there. So after that, let me invite you for a picture in front of Nkrumah Hall, and thereafter we'll have some tea very quickly, and we'll resume.
Between now and roughly 1 p.m. To think about the concept of human rights in Africa. This is a book I read in the mid-1990s. Like Kamata 89 when the book was published. And then there will be some slippages here and there, so we'll package it nicely. And maybe within a week, we will have a soft copy of the old edition of the book, which actually happened within 2 days. They had already scanned and they sent me sort of a distorted version of this book. And from there, we've done everything possible to make sure that the book is not just ready, but printed, ready for this launch. A basis of beginning the engagement. It is appropriate that we are doing it at the University of Dar es Salaam. And it's even more appropriate that we're doing it around a theme on human rights. Because there is a sense in which human rights often gets treated as this esoteric thing that comes on the bandwagon of an NGO, which then goes to teach the people who are already practicing human rights. You go to teach them human rights. The most powerful statement that got me clued into this book is actually the first paragraph of you've tested the boundaries of what human rights does to us. So I would like to stop there and ask Walter Bugoya to speak first to the experience of publishing Issa Shivji, and then I will ask Professor Issa Shivji to speak to the book, and then I will invite Professor Willy Mutunga, Emeritus CJ, Republic of Kenya, to react but also lead us into a launch, formal launch of the book. So in that order, welcome Walter. I'm not going into a deep introduction of Walter because, as someone said, if you don't know him, whom do you know? If you've read anything published by Mkuki wa Nyota, that is the person. Mkuki na Nyota. The Kenyan in me was revealed in my Swahili. Welcome, Walter.
This is weird a little bit. Know him, who do you know? Gosh. Unafahamu, mimi ni mmoja wa wale watu wanaosema bwana, Kiswahili lazima tukitumie katika mihadhara ya science. Sio mihadhara ya kunywa pombe tu na kupiga bla bla. Lazima tupe hadhi ya Kiswahili, tuzungumze katika mikutano ya kimataifa na kadhalika. Lakini sasa kwa sababu hakuna wakalimani na watafsiri na wengine hapa hawafahamu Kiswahili, itakuwa si uungwana mimi kuendelea kuzungumza katika Kiswahili. Kwa hiyo bora nirudi kule nifanye kama inavyokuwa kawaida, tuzungumze Kiingereza. Tupo pamoja? Haya. I was a little bit unhappy this morning because the acknowledgements of one after another, Rais Mheshimiwa na Waziri Mkuu Mheshimiwa na Mkuu wa Mkoa Mheshimiwa na DC Mheshimiwa na Katibu Kata Mheshimiwa, and a whole lot of Waheshimiwa, which takes so much precious time instead of going straight to the point. But it has become now a thing. If you don't recognize these people all the time, you probably will lose a job. Since I can't lose a job, let me just say brothers and sisters. Tuendelee, okay? Asante. Now, first of all, thank you, Ngwanza, for including me, but not telling me the whole truth, because I was invited to be part of the launch of this book. And since I was not the publisher of the book, despite playing a little role in facilitating, I thought the launchers would be the publisher. Could forgive me if I just say to Isa, this professor and all this type of thing, tunafahamiana. Okay? So, Comrade Isa, I want to make a few remarks about publishing him, but also in the process maybe painting a picture of the situation in the 60s and 70s and 80s in which this book was published. But let me start by saying I did not go to this university. And trust me, not going to this university in this country is a bit of a liability. It's a bit of, what can I say, handicap. Because there is a University of Dar es Salaam tribe. And if you don't belong to the University of Dar es Salaam tribe and its sub-tribe, the Akivaga group, you are kind of marginal to what happens. And so, since I did not go to the University of Dar es Salaam, but hung around the University of Dar es Salaam, sometimes I wasn't sure what people thought about me. I wasn't quite a comrade. I was kind of a fellow traveler. Somebody who we don't really quite understand. He studied in America, right? Hatujui huyu bwana. But then, as it turned out,
I had been engaged in the United States in struggles that were almost more even dangerous than the ones that were being waged at the university here.
And somehow my view was, what do they take themselves for? Have they really known what struggle is all about? But then, at that time, and again, I was working in the foreign ministry. And just assumed he works for the foreign ministry. What do you mean? Of course, he must be part of the system. And again, being part of the system, being around academics, poses some problems. When actually the real people in the system who were academicians and were carrying on, no one suspected. But we came to learn later that they had been recruited and trained while they were here. Anyway, so, although said, if you don't know me, who do you know? Let me just make a few remarks about myself, because that will situate me and explain how I got into publishing the kind of works I published and the kind of persona that deals with that kind of work. Okay, just mention that I was in the US in the 60s, in this capitalist racist society, for almost 5 years, waging struggles there. And I came back here, joined the foreign ministry. And then 1960, the foreign ministry I dealt with Africa issues and met many of the people in the liberation movements, made some friends there, and learned a lot, actually. In some ways, my formation was through those contacts, both at the practical and ideological level. In 1968, I was transferred to Ethiopia, and this Ethiopia was probably the only really feudalist society that we had in Africa under Haile Selassie. And coming from Tanzania of the Arusha Declaration into Addis of that period, we were always suspect also. And also I had some connections with students who were struggling there, and that did not make me a very popular person in the eyes of the people there. Then fast forward, from there when I went to China, this was during the Cultural Revolution. And trust me, it was a challenge. Because, now I know, don't laugh, but this, man, have you ever been in a situation where you can stay for a month without seeing a woman? I'm not talking about having anything to do with her. Seeing a woman. Huh? I say, unafahamu habari. Ukapiga 5-6 months. I'm not talking about seeing. Because everybody at the time was wearing the same uniform, blue or green, with short hair, and you weren't quite sure. In any case, there was no contact at that time. So, but while I was there also, I had a chance to go to Vietnam and during the war and North Korea, Pyongyang. But as I say now, in this whole period, one is gathering almost in a kind of osmotic way, ideas, perceptions, and even feelings about what's all about struggling for an idea. And the Cultural Revolution was, of course, extremely interesting. This was also the time when Chairman Mao and Zhou Enlai had decided to support the building of Tazara Railway when capitalist countries had refused to, and so on. Okay, so now, then I came back, and I realized at the time that diplomacy was not really my calling. So I left. And let me also state that actually it was a comrade, Harko Bhagat, who recruited me to join the publishing house. So when I joined the publishing house, there was an Englishman, Robert Hutchison, who was a progressive fellow. And the first manuscript that came that we had to publish was Silent Class Struggle. Now, we had a meeting of the chairman of the board who asked, what is this thing about silent class struggle? There's no class struggle in this country. What's this all about? And why should you publish this book? Anyway, Robert Hutchison, he said, well, we must publish this book because it's one of the most interesting books about Tanzania and so on. The chairman, who was the well-known and Sir George Kahama, said to him, well, I don't think so. And Robert Hutchison said, well, in that case, then I'm going to resign. So George Kahama looked at me and said, and you? Because I had just come in and this was really the first meeting. And you, what do you think? I took a moment and I said, if he resigns, I will also resign. So Sir George was a very clever man. He said, okay, let me think about it, and I'll come back to you. Anyway, we came to learn later that he went to Mwalimu Nyerere and said, look, that these people want to publish this terrible book about silent class struggle, and I'm over a mind to stop this.